I didn't ask for this, Lucy Carter whispered to herself as she clutched the small can of specialty baby formula against her chest, her hands trembling from exhaustion, cold, and the kind of humiliation that made a person feel smaller than their own shadow. The fluorescent lights of the supermarket flickered above her with a faint electric buzz. Somewhere near the frozen section, a refrigerator motor coughed and rattled. The floor was wet from melted slush dragged in by customers, and the wheels of Lily's stroller kept sticking every time Lucy tried to move it forward. Her 6-month-old daughter stirred beneath a faded pink blanket, cheeks flushed, tiny lips trembling before another soft cry escaped. Lucy looked down at her wallet. $13.24. The formula cost $27.99. She had known the price before she picked it up. She had stood in the baby aisle for nearly 7 minutes, staring at the label, doing math in her head like math could become mercy if she repeated it enough times. Rent was already 11 days late. The electric bill had a red stamp on it. The daycare center had called twice that week to remind her that continued care requires payment. But Lily could not tolerate the cheaper formula. The last time Lucy tried it, Lily had screamed for 4 hours, her tiny body stiff with gas and pain until Lucy had sat on the bathroom floor at 3 in the morning, crying silently so the neighbors would not hear. "Ma'am," the cashier said carefully. She was not unkind, just tired. "You're still short." Lucy's fingers shook as she spread the coins across the counter again. Quarters, dimes, nickels. 3 pennies darkened with age. She counted them as if the amount might change out of pity. Behind her, someone sighed loudly. "Unbelievable," a teenage girl muttered. "It's a whole line." Lucy's cheeks burned. "I'm sorry," she said, though she hated the words the second they left her mouth. She was always sorry now. Sorry for being late. Sorry for needing an extension. Sorry for asking if a bill could wait. Sorry for bringing a baby onto a crowded bus. Sorry for not having exact change. Sorry for existing in public while poor. Lily whimpered again, a thin, breathy sound that made Lucy's chest tighten. "I just need a moment," Lucy murmured. The cashier glanced at the formula, then at Lily, then back at Lucy's coins. Her expression softened, but soft expressions did not make up $14.75. Lucy swallowed. Her throat hurt from holding back tears. She could put it back. She could buy the cheaper kind. She could tell herself one bad night would not matter. But Lily's cheeks looked too warm. Lucy reached for the can slowly, already feeling the defeat before she said it. "I'll just—" A man's voice came from behind her. "Add it to mine." Lucy froze. The voice was calm, low, and controlled, the kind of voice that did not fight for space because space was always given to it. She turned just enough to see a tall man standing behind her in a charcoal overcoat, his suit beneath it perfectly tailored, his dark hair touched with gray at the temples. He looked out of place beneath the harsh supermarket lights, too polished for the wet floor and discount signs and tired people holding coupons. He handed a $20 bill to the cashier. Lucy stiffened immediately. "No," she said, sharper than she meant to. "Please don't." The man looked at her, not offended, not embarrassed, just observant. "It's formula," he said quietly. "I know what it is." His eyes moved briefly to Lily, then back to Lucy. "Is your baby going to be okay?" The question undid her more than the money. Lucy looked away. "She's fine." Lily chose that moment to cough. It was small, but rough enough to make Lucy's body react before her mind did. She bent over the stroller, touching Lily's forehead with the back of her fingers. "Too warm." The cashier finished ringing up the sale and slid the receipt across the counter. The man did not move closer. He did not smile, as if expecting gratitude. He simply waited. Lucy took the bag with the formula inside and whispered, "Thank you." The words felt like stones in her mouth. The man nodded once. Then he said, almost too softly, "Why didn't you tell me?" Lucy looked up. The supermarket noise seemed to dull around them. The beeping register, the impatient shifting of customers, Lily's faint whimpering, the hum of old fluorescent tubes. "What?" she asked. The man's face changed, just slightly. A flicker of recognition. Or guilt. "Lucy Carter," he said. Her blood went cold. She stared at him. The gray at his temples. The controlled posture. The face she had seen on company newsletters, elevator screens, quarterly video calls she used to watch while sitting at a desk she had lost 2 months ago. Daniel Hale, CEO of Hale Medical Systems. The company that had bought the billing software firm where she worked. The company that had restructured her department by email on a Monday morning. The company whose severance package had been delayed because of processing errors. The company that still owed her final payout. Lucy's hand tightened around the stroller handle. "You," she said. Daniel's expression did not shift, but something in his eyes darkened. "You worked in accounting," he said. "Pediatric claims division." "I was laid off." "I know." The line behind them became restless again, but Lucy barely heard it. Her pulse was beating too hard. "You know?" she repeated. Daniel looked at Lily, then back at her. "I know now." Lucy let out a small laugh, humorless and brittle. "Well, that's good. I'm glad someone knows." She turned the stroller toward the exit. "Lucy, don't." He stopped. She pushed through the automatic doors into the cold November evening, the plastic bag swinging from her wrist, Lily bundled beneath the worn blanket. Rain had started again, thin and needling. The parking lot shone black beneath the streetlights. Lucy had planned to take the bus home. The next one came in 23 minutes if it was on time, which it rarely was. Her apartment was 15 blocks away. She could walk if Lily stayed warm. She adjusted the blanket around Lily's face. Behind her, the doors opened. "Your daughter has a fever," Daniel said. Lucy kept walking. "She's fine." "She doesn't sound fine." Lucy turned. "You don't get to do that." He stopped on the wet pavement. "Do what?" "Show up after your company cuts off my income, pays for one can of formula, and then act concerned like you're separate from the damage." The words came out before she could soften them. She was too tired to perform politeness. For the first time, Daniel looked struck. "My company laid off over 400 people in the acquisition," he said slowly. "I didn't know your situation. That makes it better?" "No," the answer was immediate. "Quiet." Lucy hated that it made her pause. Lily coughed again, then began to cry, a thin, strained cry that had no anger in it, only discomfort. Lucy's anger collapsed into fear. Daniel heard the change too. "I have a car," he said. "Let me drive you home. Or to urgent care." "No, Lucy, no," she repeated, but her voice broke. She looked toward the bus stop. Two people stood beneath the shelter, collars raised against the rain. One of them smoked under the no-smoking sign. Lily's blanket was already damp at the edge. Daniel's voice lowered. "You don't have to trust me, but you can use my car for your daughter." Lucy hated him for saying it that way, hated that it was the only sentence that could reach her. She looked at him for a long moment. "If you try to make this into charity," she said, "I'll get out." "I won't. If you ask me personal questions, I'll get out." "I understand. If you make one call to someone at your company before I know what you're doing, I'll get out." Daniel nodded. "Fair." Lucy did not feel relieved. She felt cornered by reality. She followed him to a black sedan parked near the entrance. He opened the back door and stepped aside. Not too close. Not too helpful. She noticed that. She also noticed the car smelled faintly of leather and cedar, and that the warmth inside made Lily's crying soften almost immediately. Lucy buckled the car seat base with shaking hands. Daniel watched only long enough to make sure she did not need help, then looked away. When he got behind the wheel, he did not ask where she lived until she gave the address. His jaw tightened when she said the street name, but he made no comment. The car pulled out of the parking lot. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. The rain tapped against the windows. Streetlights slid over Daniel's face in gold and shadow. Lucy sat in the back beside Lily, one hand resting on the baby's blanket, the other holding the formula bag like proof that the evening had happened. Finally, Daniel said, "How long has she had the fever?" Lucy stared at the window. "Since this afternoon." "Did you call her pediatrician?" "Yes." "And?" "They said to monitor it unless it goes over 101.5 or she stops feeding." "Has she been feeding?" Lucy closed her eyes. "Not well. Not enough. She's been fussy." Daniel did not answer immediately. That restraint irritated her almost as much as it steadied her. "What?" she said. "I was deciding whether to speak or stay quiet." "At least you know that's a choice." He took the criticism without defense. "There's a children's urgent care 6 minutes from here. I don't have insurance anymore. I know a doctor there." She laughed again, sharper this time. "Of course you do. I can call ahead." "No, it would help." I said no. Lily began crying harder, her tiny fists pushing against the blanket. Lucy unbuckled herself and leaned close, murmuring, "I know, baby. I know. We're almost home." Daniel's hands tightened on the wheel. I'm not trying to control you, he said. Lucy looked up. Then don't. He fell silent. The apartment building came into view 10 minutes later, a narrow brick structure squeezed between a laundromat and a pawn shop. One of the entrance lights was out. The front steps were slick with rain. A plastic bag of trash had split near the curb, and wet paper clung to the sidewalk. Daniel parked, but did not turn off the engine. Lucy opened the door before he could offer. Thank you for the ride. He turned slightly. Lucy, your severance delay, don't. I need to fix it. That money was due 6 weeks ago. I know. No, you don't. She stepped out into the rain, then leaned back in. You know it as a file. I know it as skipping dinner so my baby can eat. I know it as choosing between medicine and electricity. I know it as standing in a supermarket while strangers stare at my coins. Daniel's face went still. Lucy shut the door. She carried Lily upstairs because the elevator had been broken for 12 days. On the second-floor landing, Mrs. Alvarez from 2B opened her door a crack. She okay? The older woman asked. Fever, Lucy said. I'll watch her. Mrs. Alvarez's eyes softened. I have infant Tylenol. Almost half bottle. Lucy almost said no out of reflex. Then Lily whimpered against her shoulder. Yes, Lucy whispered. Thank you. Inside the apartment, the air was cold. The radiator clanked, but produced only a thin breath of heat. The kitchen sink held 2 mugs, 1 bottle brush, and a saucepan from yesterday's pasta. On the table sat the late rent notice, folded once, as if folding it could make it less real. Lucy took Lily's temperature. 101.8. Her hands went numb. She called the pediatric nurse line again. Waited. Pressed 1. Pressed 3. Gave Lily's date of birth. Explained the cough, the fever, the feeding trouble. The nurse advised urgent care. Lucy looked at the formula can on the counter, then at the rent notice. How much would it cost without insurance? She asked. The nurse hesitated. That hesitation was an answer. Lucy thanked her and hung up. For 1 minute, she stood completely still. Then someone knocked. Not loud. Not demanding. She knew before she opened it. Daniel stood in the hallway, rain on his overcoat, holding nothing this time. No bags. No dramatic offering. I didn't leave, he said. Lucy's grip tightened on the door. Why? Because I thought you might need to go to urgent care. I told you no. Yes. And you stayed anyway. Yes. Her anger flared. But underneath it was something more dangerous, relief. She hated relief when it came from someone she did not trust. Lily coughed from inside the apartment. Daniel's eyes moved past Lucy, then back to her. I won't come in unless you ask. I won't pay unless you agree. But I can drive. Lucy stood there, exhausted, humiliated, terrified. Pride had carried her for months. Pride had kept her from calling her ex when the daycare bill was due. Pride had kept her from asking Mrs. Alvarez for more than occasional help. Pride had kept her from crying in public. But pride could not lower a fever. She opened the door wider. Drive, she said. The urgent care waiting room smelled like disinfectant, wet coats, and vending machine coffee. A child cried behind a partition. A television, mounted in the corner, played a cooking show no one watched. Lucy filled out forms with one hand while rocking Lily's stroller with the other. Insurance provider. She left it blank. Employer. She paused, then wrote. Unemployed. Emergency contact. Her pen hovered. Daniel sat 2 chairs away, far enough to give her space, close enough that his presence was impossible to ignore. He had made no phone calls in front of her. He had not introduced himself as anyone important. When the receptionist asked if he was the father, he had looked at Lucy and waited. No, Lucy had said. The word had landed harder than she expected. Now the receptionist slid another form toward her. Self-pay agreement. We'll need a deposit. Lucy looked at the amount. $200. Her stomach turned. Daniel's voice came quietly from beside her. Lucy. She did not look at him. I can pay the clinic directly, he said. Not you. No conditions. The receptionist looked between them, pretending not to listen. Lucy's hand shook around the pen. Why are you doing this? She asked. Daniel's face tightened. Because I'm responsible for part of why you're here. It was not romantic. It was not pretty. It was the first honest thing he had said. Lucy looked at Lily, whose eyes were glossy and half-closed. Fine, she whispered. But this doesn't buy forgiveness. I'm not asking for it. Inside the exam room, Lily was weighed, listened to, examined. The doctor said it was likely a viral infection, but her breathing was slightly strained and she was dehydrated enough to need monitoring. They gave Lucy instructions, medicine dosage, signs to watch for, and a prescription for formula support if Lily's pediatrician would authorize it. Paperwork. Always paperwork. Lucy listened, nodded, asked practical questions. How many wet diapers? When to return? Could she still use the specialty formula? How high was too high? What if Lily refused the bottle again? Daniel stood near the door, silent. Only once did he speak. When the doctor mentioned that lapses in insurance after job loss were common, Daniel looked down. Lucy saw it. On the drive back, Lily slept in her car seat, fever temporarily lowered. Lucy sat in the back again, too drained to pretend strength. Daniel drove more slowly this time. My daughter died in a hospital, he said. Lucy's eyes lifted. He did not look at her in the mirror. She was 8 months old. Her name was Grace. It was 9 years ago. The car filled with the sound of rain. Lucy said nothing. Daniel continued, voice controlled in a way that made it more painful. My wife had postpartum depression. I told myself I was giving her space. I was building the company then. Always in meetings. Always one call away from coming home, but never home. Grace got sick. Fever. Breathing trouble. My wife didn't call me until it was too late because she thought I'd be angry that she couldn't handle it. Lucy's throat tightened despite herself. She wasn't right, Daniel said. But she wasn't entirely wrong either. He stopped at a red light. My wife left 6 months after the funeral. She said the house felt like a museum of everything I had failed to notice. Lucy looked down at Lily. I'm sorry, she said softly, before she could stop herself. Daniel nodded once. So am I. For a moment, there was no CEO, no billionaire, no polished man in a suit. Just a father speaking from a wound that had never closed. Then the light changed. Lucy did not forgive him. But she understood something she had not understood before. His question in the supermarket had not only been about her. Why didn't you tell me? Maybe he had been asking a ghost. The next morning, Lucy woke after 90 minutes of broken sleep to Lily crying again. The apartment was gray with early light. A neighbor's television murmured through the wall. Somewhere upstairs, pipes knocked like someone tapping from inside the building. Lucy checked the fever. 100.9 better. She made coffee and forgot to drink it. By the time she remembered, it was cold and bitter. She drank it anyway. Her phone showed 3 missed calls. One from the daycare. One from an unknown number. One from Hale Medical Systems HR. Lucy stared at the last one until anger rose hot in her chest. Then a text came in from Daniel. Are you and Lily home? Lucy almost deleted it. Instead she typed, yes. His reply came after a minute. HR will call about your severance today. I found the delay. It was unacceptable. Lucy read it twice. Then she typed, you shouldn't have had to find it. He replied, you're right. She did not answer. At 11, HR called. Their voice was polished, apologetic, full of phrases like oversight and administrative backlog. They promised the payment would be processed within 48 hours. Lucy asked for written confirmation. They hesitated. She insisted. They sent it. That small act, insisting, made her feel more like herself than she had in weeks. At noon, the daycare called again. Lucy, the director said, using the sympathetic voice people used before saying something cruel. We understand your situation, but we can't hold Lily's spot past Friday without payment. Lucy closed her eyes. Friday, she repeated. And the outstanding balance. How much? The number made her sit down. After the call, she sat at the kitchen table with Lily asleep against her chest, the phone still in her hand, and let herself feel nothing for almost 5 full minutes. Not sadness. Not panic. Nothing. That was poverty too. Not crying. Not collapsing. Just going blank because the body had run out of ways to react. A knock came at the door in the afternoon. Lucy opened it with the chain still on. Daniel stood there holding a paper grocery bag and a pharmacy bag. Her expression hardened immediately. I told you not to make this charity. It isn't. It looks exactly like charity. He glanced at the chain. Then don't open the door. That surprised her. He set the bags down outside. There's infant acetaminophen, electrolyte solution, the formula she uses, and a printed copy of your severance confirmation. I also included the direct number for the benefits administrator. They mishandled your COBRA paperwork. Lucy stared at him through the gap. You brought groceries. I brought medical supplies. And formula. Yes. So groceries. He exhaled. Yes. Daniel. I don't know how to help without making it worse, he said. The honesty stopped her. For the first time since she met him, he looked uncertain. Not weak, not helpless, but stripped of the confidence that usually shielded him. Lucy looked at the bags, then at him. You can't repair guilt with supplies. I know. Do you? His eyes met hers. I'm trying to. The hallway was quiet except for Mrs. Alvarez's radio playing behind her door. Lucy unlatched the chain. Daniel did not step in until she moved aside. The apartment seemed smaller with him in it. Not because he tried to fill it, but because he came from another scale of life entirely. His coat probably cost more than her rent. His watch could have paid the daycare balance. He stood in her kitchen beside chipped mugs and a stove with one broken burner, and the class difference between them became a third person in the room. He noticed the late rent notice on the table. Lucy saw him notice. Don't, she said. He looked away. I wasn't going to. Yes, you were. He accepted that. Lily stirred in the crib and began to fuss. Lucy moved automatically, lifting her, checking her forehead, murmuring nonsense sounds. Daniel watched with an expression Lucy could not read. Do you want to hold her? She asked suddenly. The question seemed to hit him physically. He went very still. Lucy regretted it immediately. You don't have to. I haven't held a baby since Grace. The room quieted. Lucy looked down at Lily, then back at him. Then no, she said gently. Not because you can't. Because she shouldn't be the first step in your grief. Daniel's throat moved. You're right. Lucy expected him to retreat emotionally, maybe become cold. Instead, he sat down at the kitchen chair, silent and pale. She prepared Lily's bottle. Her hands knew the motions even when her mind was tired. Measure, pour, shake, test against wrist. Lily latched weakly at first, then drank. Daniel watched the bottle, not the baby's face. My company acquired your division because our board believed the software would reduce claim errors, he said after a while. I approved cost cuts afterward. I didn't review the individual impact reports closely. I trusted the restructuring team. Lucy gave a small, tired smile. That's what powerful people always say. They trusted someone. He looked at her. She held his gaze. I don't mean that as an insult, she said. I mean it as a fact. People like me are always hidden inside numbers people like you approve. Daniel looked down at his hands. Yes, he said. The word was quiet. Lucy shifted Lily against her shoulder. I was good at my job. I know. No, you don't. You know it now because you looked me up after seeing me humiliated in a supermarket. He flinched. Good, she thought, then felt guilty for thinking it. I caught billing discrepancies, Lucy continued. I stayed late. I trained 2 people who kept their jobs. I begged HR for remote work after Lily was born because daycare cost more than my take-home pay some weeks. They said policy didn't allow it. Then they cut me. Daniel's face had gone hard, but not at her. I signed off on that policy. Lucy's breath caught. He looked up. I didn't write it, but I approved it. Return to office requirement. I argued it would improve accountability after the acquisition. Lucy stared at him. The room seemed to tilt slightly. So when I couldn't come in full-time because I had a baby and no reliable childcare, you were marked low flexibility. The phrase was so clean, so corporate, so obscene. Lucy stood slowly, Lily still in her arms. Get out. Daniel rose. Lucy, get out. I'm sorry. I don't want your sorry in my kitchen. He nodded, face drained. I'll go. He moved toward the door. Lucy's voice shook. You didn't just find me in that supermarket. You helped put me there. He stopped with his hand near the knob. Yes, he said. Then he left. For the next 2 days, Lucy did not answer his messages. He sent 3. The first, I won't contact you again unless it concerns the severance or benefits. The second, your COBRA reinstatement was mishandled. I've asked legal to correct the process for all affected employees, not just you. The third, the severance cleared. Please confirm when received. Lucy confirmed only that the money arrived. It was not a fortune. It did not erase the rent, daycare, utilities, medical costs, and months of depletion. But it allowed her to breathe without immediate panic for the first time in weeks. She paid part of the rent, bought formula, refilled Lily's medicine, paid the daycare enough to keep the spot for 1 more month. Then she sat on the bathroom floor while Lily napped and cried so hard she had to bite her sleeve. Relief was not always beautiful. Sometimes it came with shaking. Sometimes it came with rage. Sometimes it came with the knowledge that the help should have arrived before you had to break in public. On Friday afternoon, Lucy took Lily to a follow-up appointment. The fever had improved, but the cough lingered. The waiting room was crowded, and a toddler kept dropping a plastic dinosaur on the floor. Lucy filled out reinstated insurance details with careful handwriting, still afraid someone would say it did not work. At the pharmacy afterward, the clerk told her one prescription was not covered. Lucy felt the old panic rise instantly. How much? $83. Lucy closed her eyes. Behind her, a woman in line shifted impatiently. The sound transported Lucy back to the supermarket. Coins on the counter, shame crawling up her neck. She reached for her debit card. A voice behind her said, "I'm not paying." Lucy turned. Daniel stood there in a dark coat, hands visible, expression guarded. Her face hardened. "Then why are you here?" "Because I got a call from Dr. Patel's office that your insurance reinstatement still has a pharmacy issue. I came to speak to the benefits provider in person." "You followed me?" "No. Dr. Patel called our benefits administrator because the plan was incorrectly coded. My office called me. I came here because I knew you'd be stuck at the counter." Lucy stared at him, furious and embarrassed. The pharmacist looked deeply uncomfortable. Daniel stepped back. "I can leave." Lucy looked at the prescription. At Lily in the stroller, rubbing one eye with a mittened fist. At the line behind her. "No," she said tightly. "Fix the insurance." "Not my bill. The insurance." Something like respect passed through his face. He nodded. Understood. It took 40 minutes. Daniel stood near the pharmacy window, phone to his ear, voice low but precise. He did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. That somehow made him more intimidating. Lucy sat on a plastic chair feeding Lily a bottle, pretending not to listen. At last, the pharmacist re-ran the prescription. "Copay is $5. Lucy paid it herself. Outside, Daniel walked beside her, but not too close. "Thank you," she said stiffly. "You shouldn't have had to thank me." "No," she agreed. "I shouldn't." He gave the faintest nod. They reached the bus stop. The sky was low and gray, the pavement wet, traffic hissing past. Daniel looked at the stroller. "May I wait until the bus comes?" Lucy studied him. "Why?" "Because I want to." "That's not an answer." He looked toward the street. "Because when Grace died, I made myself useful in every way except the ways that mattered. I wrote checks, funded wings, built systems. I never learned how to stand beside someone without trying to solve them." Lucy absorbed that. "You're still trying to solve me." "Yes," he said, "but less efficiently." A laugh escaped her before she could stop it. It was small, rusted, almost painful. Daniel looked surprised by it, then wisely did not smile too much. The bus arrived with a groan of brakes. Lucy lifted the stroller awkwardly, but before Daniel could help, she gave him a warning look. He stepped back. The bus driver sighed and lowered the ramp. Lucy appreciated that Daniel let the inconvenience happen. Let her manage. Let her be seen as capable, not rescued. As the bus pulled away, she looked through the rain-streaked window. Daniel remained at the stop, hands in his coat pockets, watching not like a savior, but like a man beginning to understand the distance between guilt and repair. A week passed. Lucy returned to routines that did not become easy just because one crisis had been delayed. Lily's cough improved. The apartment stayed cold. The daycare balance remained frightening. Freelance accounting jobs came in small, unreliable pieces. At night, Lucy worked after Lily slept, reconciling invoices while the radiator clanged and her coffee went cold beside her. Daniel did not appear at her door again. Instead, one envelope arrived from Hale Medical Systems. Lucy almost threw it away. Inside was not a check. It was a formal notice. The company was reviewing return-to-office policies, severance delays, benefits lapses, and childcare hardship cases for all affected employees from the acquisition. There was also an invitation to participate in an independent review panel, paid hourly, remote, with childcare reimbursement. Lucy read it 3 times. Then she called the number listed. "Mr. Hale requested your name," the coordinator said. "But participation is voluntary. Your feedback would help us identify where the process failed." Lucy almost said no. Then she thought of other women counting coins, other parents losing insurance, other employees becoming numbers inside a spreadsheet. "When does it start?" she asked. The first meeting was held over video. Lucy wore her best blouse, the one with a loose thread near the cuff. Lily napped in the next room. Daniel was there, but he did not lead the meeting. An independent consultant did. HR looked nervous. Legal looked polished. 3 other former employees attended. a father whose son needed therapy coverage, a woman who had resigned after her mother's surgery, and a man who had slept in his car for 2 weeks after relocation assistance failed. Lucy listened. Then she spoke. Not dramatically, not perfectly. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. She described the supermarket. Not Daniel. Not the rescue. The coins. The calculation. The fear of choosing the wrong formula. The humiliation of being treated like a delay in someone else's day. She described calling HR and getting voicemail. She described the phrase, low flexibility. She described the way corporate decisions traveled downward until they became a mother standing in wet shoes under fluorescent lights, deciding whether her baby could eat without pain. When she finished, no one spoke for a moment. Daniel's camera remained still. His face was controlled, but his eyes were not. The consultant cleared her throat. "Thank you, Ms. Carter." Lucy nodded, muted herself, and only then realized her hands were shaking. That evening, Daniel called. Lucy almost ignored it. Then she answered. "You shouldn't call after meetings," she said. "I know. This isn't about the review." "Then what is it?" A pause. "I wanted to apologize for something specific." Lucy leaned against the kitchen counter. Lily slept in her crib, one arm thrown above her head. "Okay. When you told that story today, I realized I had made myself the center of your suffering because I felt guilty. I kept thinking about what I could do, what I could fix, how I could make you less angry. But your anger isn't a problem for me to solve." Lucy closed her eyes. Daniel continued, quieter. "It's information I should have listened to sooner." The apartment hummed around her. "That's a better apology," she said. "I'm learning. Don't sound proud of yourself." "I'm not." She believed him. Another silence passed, less sharp than before. "How's Lily?" he asked. "Better. Still coughing a little." "I'm glad." Lucy hesitated. "How are you?" The question surprised them both. Daniel took a second before answering. "Not better," he said, "but more awake." Lucy looked toward Lily's crib. "That's something." "Yes." They did not speak long. There was no confession, no romantic turn, no sweeping promise. Just a few careful sentences between two people who had both been forced to look at wounds they would rather avoid. Trust did not arrive like sunlight. It came like a match struck in a cold room. Small, unstable, still real. In the weeks that followed, the review panel continued. Some changes were announced quietly. Emergency benefits extensions, corrected severance procedures, remote work exceptions for caregiving, a hardship advocate independent from HR. Lucy did not let herself believe too quickly. But she watched. Daniel attended every session and spoke less each time. That mattered more than his speeches would have. One afternoon, Lucy was leaving daycare with Lily when she found Daniel waiting outside, not beside a luxury car, but standing near the curb holding 2 coffees. She stopped. "This is dangerously close to ambush behavior." He handed 1 cup toward her. "It's from the place across the street. You can reject it." She took it, sniffed it, and frowned. "It's cold. I've been standing here 20 minutes deciding whether this was inappropriate." Lucy looked at him. Then she laughed, softly. Lily babbled from the stroller and reached toward the cup. "No coffee for you," Lucy murmured. Daniel crouched, not too close, and smiled at Lily with a sadness that had softened at the edges. "She looks stronger," he said. "She is. So do you." Lucy's defenses rose immediately. Daniel saw it. "That came out wrong." "Yes. I meant, you look less alone." Lucy looked away toward the street, where buses exhaled at the curb and people hurried past with grocery bags, backpacks, tired faces. "I'm still alone in most of the ways that count," she said. Daniel stood slowly. "I know." But he did not leave. They walked together for 2 blocks. Not touching, not pretending. Lucy told him about a freelance client who paid late. Daniel told her about Grace's old yellow blanket, which he still kept in a drawer but had not touched in years. Lucy told him Lily hated peas. Daniel admitted he had once approved a $10 million hospital donation, but could not remember the last time he had sat in a waiting room without special treatment. "That's not charming," Lucy said. "I wasn't trying to be charming." Good. At her building, the broken entrance light had finally been repaired. Mrs. Alvarez waved from the steps. Lucy looked at Daniel. "I'm not ready to let you in again." He nodded. "I know. But you can walk with us Thursday after daycare. If you don't bring supplies." "No supplies. Or solve anything." "I'll try. Try harder." He almost smiled. "Yes, ma'am." Lucy rolled her eyes, but warmth moved through her despite herself. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Lucy opened the window slightly. Cold air slipped in, carrying the smell of rain and traffic and someone cooking onions downstairs. The city was still hard. The bills were still real. Her future was not suddenly secure. Daniel Hale had not rescued her life. But something had shifted. He had been forced to see the human cost of his distance. She had been forced to accept help without surrendering her dignity. Neither of them had become whole. Neither of them had escaped grief, guilt, or fear. But they had begun telling the truth. A message appeared on her phone. "Thursday still okay?" Lucy looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully, one tiny hand curled around the edge of her blanket. Then she typed back, "Yes, but we walk slow." His reply came a moment later. "I can do slow." Lucy set the phone down and leaned back in the dim light, feeling the ache of everything that remained unfinished. For the first time in months, the ache did not feel like the only thing waiting for her. Outside, rain touched the glass softly. Inside, Lily breathed evenly. And somewhere between shame and forgiveness, between damage and repair, between two people who had met at the worst edge of an ordinary day, something fragile began. Not a fairy tale, not salvation, not love yet. Only the first quiet proof that healing, if it came, would come slowly. And maybe slowly was the only way it could be trusted.